Okay, the next part in our block assembly is to take the block we have so far with the 2 squares and the 2 sashing pieces and attach it to the bottom half. So we are going to line it up like this and sew it together. I'm using the same 1/4 of an inch seam allowance throughout and a stitch length of 2.5. You want to make sure your seam allowances stay flat. You can just sew off the edge. And everything should line up. It's important for this pattern that the sashing pieces that are vertical line up exactly. If you're not confident in your ability to do that, you should try to use a product like this. This is seam tape, and it's just 1/4 of an inch wide, and you iron it on. And maybe I would iron the pieces together first before you stitch them to make sure that you have some accurate placement. But the way the Cricut cuts the pieces, it's really kind of a foolproof system. You should have no problem putting them together, provided you can sew basically straight seam. So that's how the block is supposed to look. I don't know what they call it. I'd call it a 4 square, or kind of looks like a present, but you can do that for all the pieces. Now when you have a lot of pieces to do, it's faster to do them in a chain, as I talked about before. And you can see how these are stitched together as a chain, one right after the other. The threads are not cut, you're just sewing from one piece right to the other. And you can do that with these, the second half of the blocks too. And I'll show you a little bit about how I did that. So when I was sewing the first time, I put the other half of the blocks in the same order in a pile here to the side of my machine, so I can just grab them as I go. And then I'm just going to sew one to the other, and I'm going to do all my pressing and cutting at the very end. So make sure that your seam allowances stay flat when you go over them. That's important. And you want to make sure and line up all your raw edges as you stitch. So instead of cutting the threads, I'm going to put the next block together. So the next block is my floral design, which I have here. I'm just going to sew from one to the next. I'm going to repeat that all the way down the chain. Now you can see here there is a little bit of difference. There's maybe a 1/4 of an inch that I'm off at the end of that block, but I will trim that off when I do my pressing, and it'll all work out in the long run. So one more time here. Oh, my bobbin is empty. So that's just how it works, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get to the very end.